Okay, go ahead.
Okay, welcome to the first meeting of the Municipality of West Perth Council meeting, first meeting in January and the first meeting in 2022. And we're not starting 2022 off much better than we did 2021, but let's hope it gets better as the year goes on. So before we start our meeting, I would ask council and staff, if you wish, that we'll have a moment of reflection. Okay, thank you. All right. First item on the agenda then is the confirmation of the agenda. As it was circulated, I believe it came out on Friday. Do we have a mover and seconder to confirm the agenda for us tonight? Councillor Chankowski and Councillor Vink. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda tonight? Okay, I don't see anything, and if you find that you do later on, just let us know. The consent agenda is there. There's actually 7 items on the consent agenda. Is there anything there that anybody would like dealt with separately or a little bit more information on? Okay, I don't see anybody's hand going up, so a motion that we accept the consent agenda would be in order. Councillor Bell and Councillor Rose. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We don't have any delegation tonight or a public meeting, but we do have a report from our planner, Susanna Reed. And I don't believe I did a sound check with Susanna, but we'll assume that everything is working. So Susanna, if you can join us here now, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you very much, Mayor McKenzie. This is shall I continue with the severance application?
Yep. Go ahead.
So this is a application for a surplus resident severance. It's in the Fullerton ward, and I have a few slides to give you a high level overview. This is the location of the property. It's 5478 line 12. Property is owned by Doug and Deandra Schneider. And this is a farm that is surplus to their farm operation, a house that's surplus to their farm operation, and they have applied using the surplus farm resident severances to sever this residence. You have these photos in your package. This is a photo of the proposed severance. So they're requesting a severance of the farmhouse here. The planning department has reviewed the application. At our last meeting, we talked about the requirements for a minimum amount of agricultural land, only the amount to support the house and building and accommodate the septic system and well. So in order to respond to that policy, the planning department is recommending that the severed parcel be decreased in size by approximately 0.3 hectares, which is just a bit shy of an acre. Other than that, the conditions are the usual conditions. And as West Perth is a commenting agency for severance applications, we're looking for a recommendation from council to approve the conditions and forward them to the County of Perth for a decision. I'm happy to respond to any questions or discussion.
Okay, any questions for Susanna on this particular application? Nicholas, go ahead.
I guess the applicant made the application for the larger size and you're recommending the smaller size. Have you had that discussion with the applicant, and are they amenable to the changes?
Oh, thank you very much for the question. Yes, I did have this conversation. It was with Doug Graham, who's the agent who's acting for the Schneiders. And he in turn followed up with his clients. And they indicated that their preference was to continue with the lot size as submitted. And they would respond to any decision of the Land Division Committee. So the planning department is offering the recommendation based on the policies in the official plan that the property be a minimum size, only what is required to support the residents. And if West Perth Council would like to continue with that recommendation, then you would continue with the offer support for the conditions as included in your package. And I can also draw your attention to the condition. It's condition number 5. So condition number 5 is that the severed lot be reduced in size from approximately 1.03 hectares as indicated on the application sketch to be approximately 0.65 hectares in size. And the other consideration for the reduced lot area is that the lot lines be in conformity with the minimum setbacks of 7.5 meters. Does that answer the question? Do you understand? Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you, Nicholas. Good question, by the way. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Cheryl, Councillor Matheson?
Yeah, I just wondered if we could get Suzanne just to put that screen back up again on the reduction size.
Sure, I would be happy to. So the purple outline here is the lot line that they have applied for all the way around. And the planning department in reviewing it is recommending that this area be removed from the severed parcel as it isn't necessary to support the residents. Does that answer the question? Is there anything else that I could offer that would be helpful to your understanding?
Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Cheryl.
Just clarify what is in that purple area then? It's hard to see on that.
Yeah, it's a lawn and there are mature trees. Here, I'll just go back to this picture. There are mature trees along the road. And then there are smaller pine trees or spruce trees planted along the lot line. But there are no buildings or structures in this area.
Okay. Other questions? Oh, sorry.
Maybe I would
Go on.
just offer as well, like the condition is, condition number 5 is the condition that addresses this policy in the official plan and what it speaks to approximate. So there would be some opportunity to discuss this further when the applicant is revising the severance, should the land division committee support the planning department's recommendation. But the critical question is, what is the minimum acre responsible to or necessary to support the house?
Okay, if we can unshare the screen, we'll see if there's anybody else has any further questions. Anything further on that? If not, we have the recommendation. I'll read the recommendation when it is, which includes 12 conditions, and number 5 is the one condition that has maybe been questioned. But I'll read it as with all 12 conditions in, and we'll see where it goes from here. So the recommendation is that the Council of Municipality of West Perth receive the report titled Severance Application File Number B44 21 submitted on behalf of Doug and Deandra Snyder for lands described as Lot 12, Concession 14 of the Fullerton Ward, 5479 line 12, and that the West Perth Council recommend that the County of Perth Land Division Committee modify and approve the severance application file B4421 submitted by Doug and or on behalf of Doug and Deandra Snyder for lands described as Lot 12, Concession 14, Fullerton Ward, Municipality of West Perth, 5478 line 12, and it's subject to the following 12 conditions. Now, do you want me to read the 12 conditions? You've had them all weekend to look at. It's your wish is what I'll do here. If you want me to read them, I can read them. See, nope, I see nods, no, that we don't need to read them. Okay, so though it's with the 12 conditions in there. And it would be, the motion would be that we narrow the severance down, and that would be the recommendation that goes to planning or to the Land Division Committee. So do we have a mover and seconder for that recommendation? Moved by Deputy Mayor Wright and seconded by Councillor Murray. Okay, any further discussion on that? Okay, I don't see anybody's hand going up. So ready for the vote then? All those in favor of that motion? Just let me check. Just keep your hands up there. Whoa. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And those opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda then, get up to speed here. Is the Chief Building Officials Report. And I'm not sure if Susanna, if you're sticking around later on, we may need your, Dan says we don't, he can handle it, so that's okay. We have a part lot control bylaw coming up. So anyways, Dan said he can look after that. So next is Chief Building Officials December permit report. So Bob, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie. This closes out the year of 2021. The month of December, we had 8 building permits for a value of just under $2.4 million in construction and 7 zoning certificates. The permits are listed in your form.
Okay, any questions for Bob on that? Okay.
Item number 2 there is the construction comparisons we've done year after year. 2021 was an excellent year as far as building permits go. Second to 2020 as far as construction value, and quite a few more residential units, as you can see by the report.
Okay, questions for Bob on that? Looks like you're getting off scot-free, Bob. No questions at all.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. And Happy New Year to you.
Same to you.
Okay, next is the treasurer's report and a couple items here. The first is the interim tax bylaw. So Wendy, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Mayor McKenzie.
Just a second. Well, just hold on a second, Wendy. Oh, sorry. Yes, we need a motion to accept Bob's report. Sorry. Moved by Councillor Rose, second by Councillor Harold. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Sorry, Wendy.
No worries. So would you like me to?
Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So before you is the interim tax bylaw report, and this bylaw is presented each year, and it is to authorize the collection of the interim property taxes, and those due dates will be February 28th and May 31st, and we're estimating that the interim levy will result in $7.8 million.
Okay. Any questions for Wendy on that? This is traditional, one of the items that we do at the first meeting of the year. That and the borrowing bylaw, that seems to be a traditional first and second thing that we do. If there's no further questions, recommendation is that the Council of Municipality of West Perth accepts the 2022 interim tax levy bylaw report as information. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Rose and Councillor Murray. Any further discussion on that or questions? Okay, all those in favor of that motion? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, and the borrowing bylaw then, Wendy?
So again, this is an annual bylaw that is presented here, and It happens at the beginning of each year, and its purpose is to authorize temporary borrowing until the budgeted property taxes are collected. Based on my analysis, I would say that the municipality is in good cash position, and I don't anticipate that we'll be using this temporary borrowing, but it just puts it in place.
Okay. Questions for Wendy on that? As I mentioned earlier, it's a standard bylaw that we do at the start of every year. If there are no questions, then I'll take a motion that we accept the annual borrowing bylaw report as information. Moved by Councillor Bell, seconded by Councillor Matheson. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Okay, thank you, Wendy. The next item then is committee appointments, and Dan is looking after that, so.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. Before Council today is just to report, giving information on two bylaws that you'll find further down below. So we've brought back the committee appointment bylaw for some amendments, and we're looking at putting Councillor Bell to the Mitchell Minor Sports Committee. And we've had discussions with Councillor Rose to go forward with Environmental Forestry and Trails Committee, as well as the Heritage and Cultural Committee. And then additionally, probably the third annual bylaw that council normally passes along with the treasurer's bylaws there have been the Committee of Adjustment appointments, which are done annually as per the Planning Act. And you'll note there's been no changes recommended, but it's been that way since 2019. And if council wishes to change that, we're happy to do so. Otherwise, the bylaw is there below. If there's any questions, happy to answer them.
Okay, any questions or anybody that wants something changed on that? Speak now at this time. Like they say, speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, I don't see anybody's hand going up. So the recommendation is that the municipality of West Perth accepts the committee appointment report as information. And a mover and seconder would be in order for that. Councillor Vink and Councillor Murray. Any further discussion on any of that? I think most of the committees were left the same, except for the ones that former Councillor Marshall had. Okay, ready for the vote then? All those in favor of those appointments? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. All right, the next item then is the council vacancy appointment procedure. So Dan, I'll let you take that away again.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just following up with the resignation of former Councillor Marshall and claiming the seat vacant, we've brought forward the procedure for council. I would just highlight a change that just with COVID and through online, we've added in a clause that we can utilize online polling. Staff and myself has tested just the built-in Zoom functionality for polling. We're pretty confident that will work nicely for us. It still remains anonymous, and on the back end, we can actually check who voted, so we can maintain accuracy and security through that way. So we're going to do some more testing on that, but we're pretty confident that will work for us. And as well, we've put some dates in there. We have an ad going into the paper scheduled for this week to start promoting the application. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, questions for Dan? I wondered, and I'm glad that we can do it this way with certainly with COVID and doing our meetings virtual. I wasn't sure how this was all going to work out, but it sounds like Dan's got the kinks all worked out, and it should work well. And you said the ad goes in this week?
Yep.
Okay.
We have the applications ready to go. We'll be looking for applicants to drop them off in person, just so we can meet with them, and we will need to commission documents. So we're hoping to meet with everyone in person that way. But the application will be for pickup at the office or will be available online shortly.
Okay. All right. Last call, any questions? All right, the recommendation that we have here is that the Council of Municipality of West Perth approves the council vacancy appointment procedure as presented. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Tam and Councillor Vink. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. So this is something that will carry through into the future, that if we do have a future vacancy, we'll be able to deal with it, because it does happen from time to time. I think it's happened in every term of council that I've been on at one point or another. So good. Okay, so that is carried. The next report is from the CAO, and it's the Office Working Group report. So Jeff, if you're here, you can take it away.
Good evening, Council. I want to give you the report. I sent the report out with the agenda. It included a number of a very brief summary of the discussion that we had at our working group meeting on December the 23rd. The kind of big takeaway message is we're making progress on the building. We appear to be a little over schedule or a little over budget in one area, a little under budget in the other area, but overall we're on budget and on schedule at this point in time. And if any of the building committee members have reviewed the report, and if there's anything there that you felt I should have added that I didn't add, I'd encourage you to speak up and provide that update to the rest of council, or else we can all answer questions.
Okay, well, we'll do the last question first. Is there anything that the building committee thought should be added that wasn't added? Okay, any questions for Jeff or the building committee on that report then? No questions at all. Okay.
Thanks. Can I mention one more thing when I'm just doing my reports, Mayor Mackenzie? The other quick thing I want to give council a heads up about, which is an unrelated matter, you will be receiving a survey from the county planning department, which I'm going to email you all later this evening or tomorrow morning. And it's a survey about planning services. We'd ask councillors to fill the survey in. It'll be open. It's a Survey Monkey link that you will receive, and it's going to council and senior staff. It'll be open until the end of the day on January the 17th, and I suspect that means 4:30. And we do have a council meeting on January 17th. And I just, it's an opportunity for the county planning department to obtain input on the service, and we'll be using that as part of our evaluation of the service as it approaches 1 year under the new model. So keep an eye out for that email. It'll be coming in the next day, hopefully tonight yet.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. So how many times can I fill that survey out?
Well, they might get on to you, but
I've already filled it out once.
You filled it out as a county councillor,
yes,
and so
yes,
yes.
Yeah.
And so you may have a different perspective, and I think if you feel you do, you know the questions, you might wish to fill it out the second time. So
okay, all right, very good.
Right.
Just one item that you may want to clarify, Jeff, and I don't think it was in the report. We had a discussion about the light tubes.
Oh, right. Yes, I've got a bit of an update. The report. So when we designed the building committee wanted to add some extra natural light in the front lobby area on the inside of the secure side of the office, where we have workstations, and they're fairly deep into the office. We have a lot of nice natural light getting to that area because of the 8-foot front door and then a 6-foot transom above that door. So there'll be a nice bit of natural light comes through, but we want to complement that area with 3 light tubes or sun tunnels that we designed. And in discussions with Dom, as we've got further into this, Dom doesn't really like the idea of going ahead with those sun tunnels and really would like to give us a credit. We're very reluctant to let go of flooding that area with some additional natural light and having the ability to sort of manage the light in that area to make it a good workspace, because it's a common workspace and it's a nice big workspace, but it doesn't have a lot of interior windows right there. So actually on Friday, and this is an update for the building committee, we sort of threw the kind of challenge out to Dom about find us some alternative if we're going to remove it. So we've removed it from the contract. The building committee asked me to follow up and ensure that there was no other option or no option for light tunnels. So the light tunnels are gone, but Dom has actually come back, or I should say Dolly has come back with an option and reviewed it with Zam Abdullah, who is the mechanical electrical engineer who has some experience with light panels that give the appearance of being able to see the exterior light, and they put a kind of light into the space that is very, very natural. And we, on first look, they look great, and economically they would be about the same as the light tubes. So they may be a really, really nice alternative solution, and they're very innovative. And I think on first look, they look great. We're waiting for a proposal.
Okay, and I think where I was coming from here, Jeff, is the reasoning that they're fairly insistent that we shouldn't put the columns in there, because lots of people have them in their houses, but this is a little different situation.
Yeah, it's a steel on steel application, and they're not really liking the idea of the steel flashing to waterproof them. Bob and Darcy and I, on the technical side, don't really know that that's enough, but it's hard to force a contractor to do something that they've told you it's a hard no, that they really don't want to do. And that got us to a conversation of an alternative. And I'm quite comfortable with the alternative. It might actually turn out being a situation where looking at something different's better, but we don't want to have them put something in that they're not comfortable doing. There's a 1-year warranty from the contractor, a 10-year warranty from the supplier. It can get really awkward if it leaks down the road. And so this alternative wouldn't involve cutting holes in your steel roof. It would be a sort of a variation on providing natural light. So I like it better in that way.
All right. Any questions, any further questions for Jeff on that? Councillor Harold.
Jeff, do you happen to know what the name of that product is?
Yeah, I'm just grabbing for my phone to tell you. The example, it's called Sky Factory. And the example that was provided was an example from a basement laboratory in I believe it was the London Health Sciences Center. I don't think it was the Hanover Hospital. We talked about the Hanover Hospital, but I think it's the London Health Sciences Center. It's a basement lab, and it looks all the world like it's skylights. And they're designed to change colors through the day, and they're panels that basically create that perception, and they throw that natural light. And tried not to get too excited about them until we talked to Zam, and Zam has experience with them and feels that they're an excellent option, and they're really the way of the future. So, and economically, they're very economical. So,
Okay. Any other questions for Jeff? Okay, I have to look at Dan. Did we get a mover and seconder for that report at all? No, I didn't think we did. Okay, if there's no further questions, then the recommendation is that Municipality of West Perth accepts the Municipal Office Working Group report as information. Do we have a mover and seconder for that report? Don't everybody jump at once. Councillor Rose and Deputy Mayor Eddie. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on, we have 5 items of correspondence there. Is there anything there that anybody would like to dwell into or talk about a little bit? Otherwise, we just receive the correspondence as information. We had talked, one of the items is the Upper Thames draft budget. We had talked about having Upper Thames come and talk to us at one time. Do we still want to do that? I'm just looking for some comments from council here? Because we had mentioned that we thought we would have them come again. Councillor Harold.
I don't think it would hurt to have them come on to a meeting with us.
Okay, so we can, Dan can maybe set that up that they can come. It'll have to be by Zoom at some future meeting then, and where they can go over the budget. Anna Marie, you're okay with that?
Can you hear me?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
My internet connection is very wonky tonight. But what was your question, Walter? I didn't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Just that we have Upper Thames come to a future council meeting just to go over the draft budget, and I asked if you were okay with that.
Most definitely, yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you are. You do have a few seconds delay there. Okay, then the motion here is that the Council of Municipality of West Perth accepts the correspondence as information. Mover and seconder for that motion then. Councillor Matheson and Councillor Bell, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. Moving down then, we have council reports, and the first one is the Mitchell BIA, December 1st. The minutes of December 1st, and then they also had a meeting in January, but they're not here yet. So Sherry, do you want to kind of highlight that?
I think the meetings or minutes are pretty self-explanatory unless anyone has any questions. I hope you all got a chance to go down and see the information booth and the amazing lights put up by Unitech. They were really quite gorgeous over Christmas. But any questions?
Questions for Sherry? Okay. Moving on, Maitland Valley Conservation and the minutes, anything there, Councillor Matheson, that you want to highlight?
Actually, I'm just going to mention that at that meeting, that's actually where the we drafted the letter, approved a letter to be sent out by the chair that's in the correspondence, and that is referring to our priorities and budget for the 2022. So if there's any comments or concerns that any councillors would have that would wish me to take back to the MVCA.
Okay. Anybody, any comments for Cheryl on that? Oh, Dan. Sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would just take the opportunity that if we're inviting one Conservative Conservation Authority, would we invite the rest to come and present on budget?
We had mentioned that, I think, previously, and with Maitland Valley, because the amount was so small. I think the decision was that we wouldn't ask them, but we still have a Sabo Bayfield, I guess. I'll open it up. Like, do you want all three to come? Certainly, we've got Upper Thames coming now. What is your wishes? Like, it's your call. Looking for some input here. Cheryl?
The chair and the CEO, we have discussed that. If anybody wants, they have no problem coming to a meeting.
Yeah. Okay. What's your wishes? Doug, thank you.
We should invite them all if we invite
Sure.
one.
Okay.
We definitely want to hear what their proposals and do and are we pay them. So it'd be nice to hear from all. Maybe they'll say, well, your budget's only $4,000. There's no need, but we should invite them.
Sure. Okay. Need a motion for that, Dan? No. So we have a consensus that we'll invite them all to come. Yep. Okay, good. All right, great. Thanks a lot. Okay. The motion then is that West Perth accepts the reports from councillors as presented then. We have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Rose, and seconded by Councillor Murray. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. So we have a number of bylaws here, 7 to be exact. Bylaw number 1 is bylaw to authorize borrowing. Bylaw 2 is the interim tax levy. Bylaw 3 is a bylaw to exempt Lot 5 registered plan 44M 78. And I'll maybe get Dan to explain that one.
Thank you, Your Worship. So bylaw 3 and bylaw 4 are housekeeping items. In a nutshell, what's happened is, as part of subdivision agreement, the municipality was registering a 1-foot reserve on the north side of Henry Street. So the east side of the the south side of the Riverside development. And what's happened is the way it was gone about from a planning perspective, the 1-foot reserve was joined onto lot 5. And because lot 5 was a majority owner of the developer, and he also owned the adjoining lot 4, that the 1-foot reserve merged with that lot 5 and would go into the ownership's name. So basically, by doing part lot control, we're drawing that boundary back in between lot 5 and our 1-foot reserve. And then we'll have our 1-foot reserve. And I'm told the rationale on that 1-foot reserve from administration was to just control access onto Henry that way. So there'd be no direct access to Henry from those lots. It would only come from Pond Street. That's in a nutshell at a high level. So it's just a housekeeping item. We're looking into where the error came from, if it was from correspondence from our side or on the other side, just to resolve it so it doesn't happen in the future.
Okay. Any questions for Dan on that? Thought we should have an explanation of what was going on there. Okay, if there's no questions, that was 3 and 4. Bylaw 5 is the appointment of the Committee of Adjustment, and bylaw 6 is to appoint members to the various boards, committees, and authorities for Municipality of West Perth. And bylaw 7 is a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement to provide services for the enforcement of municipal bylaws and provincial offenses between the Municipality of West Perth and Tenant Security Group. And the agreement was in with our package. I don't know if anybody has any questions with regards to that or not. Don't see any. Okay, so do we have a mover and seconder to do a first, second, and third reading on those 7 bylaws? Councillor Rose, and a seconder? Deputy Mayor Wright. Any further discussion or questions? Question, Deputy Mayor Wright.
On the Economic Development Committee, I thought I mentioned at the last meeting, Ted Crawford is now no longer a member. He moved to Goderich, and I thought Jeffrey had said we would take him off. Or Daniel, whoever.
Yeah, we just missed it. We can remove that. We can
Yeah,
make
I
that
just
as
wanted to
an
make
amendment.
sure he's off, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we do technically have a vacancy in the Economic Development Committee, but we're not recommending replace that vacancy because it brings us down to 7 members, which is a more manageable committee and better for quorum.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, so they have been duly moved and seconded. All 7 bylaws, 3 readings. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. All right. Announcements coming up. We have a few meetings coming up in January 17th is a special council meeting for the growth management workshop, and then a regular meeting on the 24th. And that one, excuse me, we're dealing with community grants and assessment information and reserves. And then back in February the 7th is our regular meeting, and the next regular meeting is the 22nd for a draft budget and presentation of budget deliberations. Any notices of motion? Other business? Councillor Harold.
Hi, thanks. I have two items I'd like to bring up this evening that are similar, but they're different enough. I'd like to do it in two parts. I'll go through both of them as quick as I can here, and then we can decide on anything after that. They're both concerning snow removal on the sidewalks. I realize this could have come as a notice of motion, but I did not get it into staff in time to get it into the agenda for tonight's meeting, so we can handle it however we want. Number one is at a recent council meeting, former councillor Marshall opened discussion about a school bus stop on Georgina Street in Mitchell, where the sidewalk does not receive winter maintenance. West Perth Operations Manager Mike Kramer explained it would have been the decision of the Transportation Department of the school board to put a bus stop at the location. If I recall correctly, West Perth provides the school board with mapping of what sidewalks receive the winter maintenance. Mr. Kramer also reminded us that the current maintenance schedule was approved by council and is budgeted at the level that we're providing. After giving it more thought, I feel we should give this Georgina Street bus stop some consideration or reconsideration, if that's the case, for addition to the sidewalk maintenance route for the remainder of this season. I realize we didn't choose to put the bus stop there, but it is our sidewalk for our residents. I'm sure the school board had a very good reason for putting the school bus stop at that location. When we don't provide reasonable access to a safe walking or meeting area on the sidewalks, we're forcing these children, parents, and guardians to congregate in a less than ideal or even worse location, which would be on the highway or on the street, sorry. We may very well have put dollars in convenience ahead of safety and service by not maintaining that section of sidewalk. Does anyone else feel the same about this issue? And if so, what can we do about it? And I'll just quickly go into the second one too, please.
You want to deal with the first one first, Steve?
Doesn't matter, sure we can.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, I know, I guess my thoughts on it would be that let's refer it back to staff. We're making an inquiry with regards to one bus stop, and I'm not sure how many other bus stops that we have. Like, if we're going to provide a service for one, there's maybe other ones that need that same service, and I'm not sure. But I would strongly suggest that we refer it back to staff and let them come back, and let's find out where these bus stops are and what we're looking at. I do know that the big problem with especially the one on Georgina Street is the sidewalk is 4 feet and the snow plow and the blower and that we have is 5 feet. So you're always going to be 6 inches on each side past the sidewalk, which if it's froze, it's not too bad. But if you get into where it's soft, you tend to rut it up. But that, that's just a situation. But I just wonder if we could, and maybe we should have done the two of them together. I don't know, but by breaking them up, we have support that we send this back to staff and let them have a look at it and come back with a report. Would that be proper protocol here on that one? Nicholas?
Yes, and could we also have some communication or dialogue with the Avon-Maitland District School Board Transportation Department then to see what
Yep.
their thoughts for putting it there were,
Yeah.
whether there was a reason or maybe no reason, and it could be one way or the other?
No, I agree, Nicholas. And actually, we've got 2 school boards that we need to deal with, and I'm not sure if the separate school board bus system has any stops any place else or not, but I think we need to look at the whole picture.
So I think the Avon-Maitland District School Board it looks after the consortium of transportation.
Okay.
So you only have to deal with the one
Right.
of them.
Okay. All right. Jeff, you have a comment?
Yeah, we'll just reach out to Transportation Services and determine who the current contact is and what the logic behind where the bus stops are and what the logic behind this one is.
Okay. Do we need a motion for that, Dan, or not? Just direction?
I think for a simple task like that, we're fine. We
Okay,
have an
good.
understanding of making
Okay,
time.
now, the second one, Steve?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so the second is just to give you a heads up that I plan to have a notice of motion on the next agenda for a council meeting to ask staff ahead of the budget meetings for a realistic estimate of cost to provide winter maintenance to all sidewalks and not only the current ones maintained. People are walking for many reasons, such as going to schools, exercise, health and wellness, as well as visits to friends and relatives, restaurants, shopping, bank, post office, and office appointments. When we don't provide winter maintenance to at least one sidewalk that is provided on street side, we're forcing the pedestrians, young and old, onto the street, which is not safe. In the winter months, we deal with slippery roads as well as more darkness since we have less daylight hours in the winter. And I do realize that there is a theory used for the decision to provide winter maintenance as we do, but I think it is time we reconsider it or consider a different or new method going forward into the next winter maintenance season.
Okay, so you've kind of answered, I guess, what I was wondering. So the second part of your inquiry there wouldn't apply to this year's budget. It would be what it would cost us to put it in next year's budget to implement that service for 2023, I guess it would be. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. It would start in late fall.
Yep. Okay. Questions for Steve on that? Doug?
You ask as an alternative, would an alternative be for the homeowners to have to clean the sidewalks like they do in other towns? That might be another alternative you ask. So that's just something to think about.
Yeah, certainly, and we've had this discussion, I think, previously, other years, and I know there's certain municipalities, and Kitchener-Waterloo comes to mind, where the homeowner is responsible for clearing the snow in front of their sidewalk. But I would think that would be a nightmare to enforce the various differences between lots. Some would have it right down to the sidewalk, and others would have 3 inches of ice on it. Maybe, I'm not sure, but it must work or work relatively well. I don't know. So we can send that off to staff as well. It's maybe not as critical as the first inquiry that Steve had, but we can get some ideas on that as well. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, Cheryl, hands up.
Steve said he was going to bring that back as a notice of motion the next
Oh,
meeting.
yeah,
Or we're
yeah.
going to go ahead with
Well, we
staff
can.
direction.
Yeah, we can do it either way. Like we already know what it is. I need some advice from Dan here. Do we leave it and come back as a notice of motion, or do we just refer it to staff to deal with now?
I would bring it back, excuse me, as a notice of motion.
Okay.
I think staff maybe has a bit of an inside leg on the track though, and we'll gladly take that.
Yeah, and if I can just add to Clerk Hobson's comments, I think the notice of motion could perhaps allow a little bit more precision on what you're actually asking staff to look into, so that we're not chasing a straw dog. And frankly, I think if we can give us, and I'm sure that Councillor Harold, and developed in notice of motion with the clerk, will bring back a few specific motions to be considered by council. The consideration of those by council will presumably narrow it down or make it broader, but it'll give staff some direction on how to proceed. And I think you've all got some time now to think about what you might be looking for in that.
Okay, all right. Okay, very good. Okay, under other business, we have a report, a response by Jeff on the COVID-19 modified stage 2 organizational response.
Yeah, I just, we include this in other business because things are changing so quickly. And I decided that with the press release that was issued on Tuesday, January 4th, I would complement it with any additional details that we have at this point in tonight's meeting. There's not a lot extra to offer. All council received the media release. The only clarifications I would provide in the media release are that we have no intention of removing the ice. We certainly communicate with the leadership from the various user groups, and we communicated with that leadership. There was obviously some concern from folks that were users and hadn't talked to their leadership that we might be removing the ice, but we have no intention of removing the ice. We've had pretty good traction on our social media on that. Beyond that, we're managing our staff. We had our, Walter and I had our community emergency group meeting today, and actually with the county, and Deputy Mayor Ait was able to be on that call as well. The update from the health unit was extensive, and the news continues to be that we're trying to preserve hospital capacity. We're trying to get as many vaccines and arms as possible, and we're continuing on that path, but there have been no further restrictions, and there's no indication yet about schools. So the rest of the update that was put out in the media release is consistent with the province's messaging, and I just want to assure council that we have changed around our operations, especially in our services where we've got essential services. We have a couple of employees right now that are in essential service areas that aren't able to report to work due to COVID or due to close exposure. We're going to continue on that path, presumably for a number of weeks, and we're taking extra measures to try to reduce that risk of close contacts and to try to minimize that risk that we lose that 30% of our workforce or 20% of our workforce, which could really cut into service. And in the case of road operations, it would be less than 20% would make it pretty difficult for us to continue. So we've got our eye on that ball. We're continuing with building services. We're continuing with the office being open, but we've got staff working from home as much as possible. And I think the key to this is all communications with council. If there are any questions, if there are any concerns, please share them with me. I will follow up with the appropriate staff. We are living in extraordinary times, but we've had some practice with this, and I don't want to say we're getting good at it, because it's really not a skill that we necessarily wanted to develop, but we've had to develop it. But we will continue to do our best to keep our services running through the changes in service restrictions by the province. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Questions for Jeff on that? Okay, looks like it's all good. The next one is an item, Deputy Mayor Ait, you're bringing this one up, are you?
I'm bringing up, as you know, these people all send everybody up the hill with every one of their problems. So we've had a ton of people reach out to me wondering if they can get rapid tests. And I contacted Daniel, who can put his face back up, and wondered if there was any way. Sure, I can send them to the Chamber of Commerce in Stratford. That's where we have to send them all. I don't know why, as a municipality, we can't find some to have. As we just stated, we have two workers out. They might need a rapid test kit. Dan might be able to follow up on that. I don't know if he found any. I don't know why just the Chamber of Commerce in Stratford can distribute test kits. And that was my question to Daniel. Just wanted to bring it up. If maybe nobody else has the question, where can I get a kit? Where can I get it one test? Just maybe me. So Dan?
Yes, thank you again, Deputy Mayor. I think the solution maybe that I will propose is we haven't found any yet, quite frankly, and that's just the nature of demand so high. And I mean, you hear stories in the media where they're giving them away and they're gone within minutes. So that just speaks to some of the demand. But what we can commit to try to do is make a location on our website where we could keep a listing of vendors. Obviously, we couldn't overly guarantee in-stock supply, and we'd look for vendors to self-identify where possible for us. But we could try and create something like that once supply becomes available, if council's willing to accept that.
Jeff?
And can I just add, the recommendations from the province around the use of rapid tests and testing solutions is again something that's evolving daily. I mean, this question last week or at the end of the week before, it was very much about where can we find kits and how many of them can we get, and can we get them in the hands of our staff so we can use them. As last week evolved and it became apparent that there's going to be a shortage of test kits, I think the province is very strongly encouraging, the advice has changed. The province is encouraging that testing to be very diligent about the use of kits. If we were going to use kits for our own staff for random testing and we are for sort of general testing, we would probably restrict that to essential services, but I can tell you that I think we would be very limited in the use of them. I think the strategy from the province is, and what they're asking us to do is if someone has symptoms, assume that it's COVID and follow the protocol as if it's COVID, but don't burn a lot of tests because tests are going to be very difficult to come by in the coming months. And in that case, we don't want to be using them up in cases where we don't need them. And I'm not going to say that we wouldn't use kits in sort of special circumstances, and I'm developing a procedure about how that'll work. But we, as a general rule, will not offer staff testing because it's not about cost, it's about supply, and that we're probably not the first place that should be using them that way. And I want to just mention as an extension to that, we've got, we have 93 out of 95 staff fully immunized. I don't see any reason to change our policy around managing staff. I know some municipalities are revisiting their policy for testing. We've got one employee that's on their way to becoming compliant, so that'll have us down to one. We have enough test kits, which we obtained for the Chamber of Commerce for that program, and we have to report on the use under that program. So I just would share with you that for, we're going to have to be patient, whether this is a month or two. I think we hold the course and we assume that those that have symptoms are positive, and that's the advice we're receiving from the health unit. So I recognize that that's frustrating, and there should be more test kits available, but there just aren't.
Okay. Any questions or further questions for Jeff on that, or Dan? Okay, good. Yeah, they're scarce. I think it was on the news tonight. I believe it was Tilsonburg where they were lined up, down the block, and they were there 2 hours or so before they were going to be open, just to line up to get one test kit. So they are scarce. Okay, if there's nothing further, we'll.
Your worship.
Sorry.
Does council want us to do a dedicated page and try and provide that information, or just sit tight for now?
Okay, that was what Doug had asked. Doug, go ahead.
Could we just put on our website to direct them to the Chamber of Commerce in Stratford? Or if anywhere else you can think of, I don't know. There's a chamber in Listowel. I don't know if they give them away. There's chambers around. If they're the ones doing it, put it on the website and let them buy or be. Every student probably has 3 sitting in the door. They've probably all expired now, right? They were only good till like the 15th of January.
And I think the question, Deputy Mayor, right, is, are we doing this to support, who's the target audience? Is it the general public, or is it
businesses? Call me, not general public. The general public does not call me to get a test because all their kids have them. These are businesses who want people to have tests that call me. Sorry, it's commercial industrial.
So the Chamber of Commerce is the obvious. The Chamber of Commerce is running this program, and that's probably your best piece of advice to give them. And I don't know that we can actually. The other sources are you can go to Amazon and you can look, but again, I don't know if we necessarily will provide a lot of value added by creating a list and putting it on our website. just because of the nature of the fact that really the chamber, if it's businesses, I think it's the chamber they can go to.
So, and I haven't gone on the website to look and see, but does the health unit have any information there as to where to obtain these rapid test kits?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so what would you like staff to do? We can put it on there just to refer them to the chamber in Stratford. Is that what you'd like?
And we'll also ask Trish to include it in her BIA newsletter that if they're searching for test kits, the best place to check in is with the chamber in Stratford, and we'll provide them with more information as we get it about supplies.
Okay, good. All right, moving on then. There's nothing else that I have. Is there any other business under other business? Okay, if not, the next item then is a confirmatory bylaw. And bylaw number 8 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for the municipality of West Perth be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Vink and Councillor Rose, all those in favor? Opposed, if any. That's everybody wants to confirm everything. And then the final one is a motion that we adjourn the meeting at 8:02. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Rose. Nobody wants to leave. It's too early. Councillor Harold, thank you. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Very good. So we are adjourned.